Hello, English 101. It is Halloween. I'm doing this video a couple of days late. I was a bit under the weather this week, but I wanted to make sure I got this in. This is on section Winter 60 to page 97. Right now, you're probably reading all the way to page 131, and based off of some of the responses I've seen, some of you are already past page 131. But today what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer any questions, discuss some of the comments that some of you made, and hopefully keep this under 10 minutes. I really do try my best to keep it short, but bear with me. A brief announcement. So on November 19th, the class we have on November 19th, we're going to meet in the library. I'll be sure to make this announcement in class on Tuesday, but November 19th, we're going to meet in the library, and you all are going to get a chance to learn, be taught how to research by a librarian, learn how to research specifically for your final essay. They'll help you kind of think about what you're going to be writing on. So I want you to start thinking about that right now if you can, while you're reading the book, while you're experiencing the book and doing your discussions. Take a look at those final essay prompts and see what interests you. So you can just be better prepared, right? Even if you wait to the last week to write your paper, at least you're prepared and you have an idea of what you want to do and you understand how to find that research to do that assignment. So I was looking over your discussion posts for the week of winter. And you had a lot of questions, particularly about Geraldine and Junior. Addison, you had a few questions. You asked if Geraldine, what was Geraldine before mother? And if you recall, towards the end, at the beginning of that section, they talk about a lot of different cities in the South, Aiken, Mobile, Nacogdoches, various small cities in the South that are predominantly Black areas. And so Morrison kind of frames this part of the story to kind of imply to us that Geraldine is much like Pauline, Mrs. Breedlove, in the sense that they were just small city girls who, moved to the big city with whoever they were in love with or whoever they married, and, have sort of become and lived this life that they have now. But she was just a girl. She was just a young woman who, didn't necessarily have a lot of options in life, and she took the option that I think was best suited for her. I hate to break it to you for anybody that was interested, but Geraldine and Junior do not come back in the story. Morrison kind of brings characters in and out, for various reasons. I think Geraldine and Junior are here to sort of mirror and juxtapose various characters. Josiah kind of spoke about a sort of comparison in ways in relation to the cat. And, I think that we see these women from the South, Mrs. McTeer, Pauline, Geraldine, they all came from similar areas or similar cities rather, and they're living these lives with these men that they married, and they're all living different levels of lives, right? Different versions of that sort of Dick and Jane story. And yet none of them seem particularly happy. Maybe Mrs. McTeer might seem the happiest, I guess. You also asked, what did Junior see in Pecola? And I think that's an interesting question, because I don't know if I've ever considered what Junior saw in Pecola. Maybe Junior just saw her as like another plaything, something that he could, mess with. Maybe he found her attractive, and he's a young boy and doesn't understand how to express his attraction or his interest. I'm not very sure. I'd love to hear anybody else's interpretations about that. But yeah, I don't exactly know what he saw in her, but I imagine he saw in her what most people see in her, sort of that weakness, that meek, very meek and vulnerable, easily taken advantage of, in control of. And you also asked a wonderfully important question. Why did Junior hate the cat? And I think, in order to understand why Junior hated the cat, we have to understand why Geraldine loved the cat. And the cat sort of, gave, like Jacob talked about, Geraldine is living this sort of stereotypical Stepford wife, lifestyle, right? This sort of expectation, this misogynistic expectation of what a woman should do and should be, right? She is subservient and a housewife and a caretaker and a provider for her child and her husband, and lives to serve her children and her husband. And that is all, Geraldine kind of is in this story. And I'm inclined to believe that's all a lot of the women in this story are, right? I don't think Miss McTeer is any different. I don't think Pauline is any different. They're all sort of living this lifestyle. And I think Junior hated the cat because the cat was sort of this emotional support animal for Geraldine. The cat provided genuine love and care and oddly and weirdly other things for Geraldine. Different levels of satisfaction. I think Junior, sort of envied the cat. And jealousy and envy can create different emotions and different reactions. And I think, the biggest reason why Junior hated the cat is because the cat got all of the things that Junior genuinely wanted from his mother. Love, affection, kindness, attention, closeness and intimacy, I think those are things that Junior wants from it. I think those are things that a lot of children want from their parents. But yeah, I think those are really helpful questions to be asking yourself. And I'm really glad many of you are asking yourselves questions or leaving questions for me to answer. Mason, you asked a really important question in your reflection. You said, what would happen if Pecola got blue eyes? Like, what would happen to this story? What would happen to her life if she had blue eyes? And maybe we'll find that out. But I think you've kind of captured the essence of the struggle for human beings is, right? We think that if we acquire these things that we think will make us happy, that we'll be happier people with better lives, and that's material things are momentary substitutes of happiness. I think as human beings, we struggle to find happiness in our purpose and in our day-to-day lives and in our relationships. And so we look for material things to give us that, or, looks, I guess. And I think that's what I think you're noticing, Mason, is that Pecola is sort of obsessed with the possibility of what the possibility of life she could have with blue eyes. But it's sad. I think you talked about that, how sad this book is and how sad it keeps getting. And it's a very difficult read for a lot of people. And I think it's a very difficult read for a lot of people because I don't think many people in the world want to admit the realities of our communities, right? The reality that this this could genuinely be someone living like this in the world, that this could be someone's reality. But I think it's important for us to not push those realities away too far, or else we may fall victim of living in sort of a fantasy of sorts. I think we must, be able to understand the realities that people are in order to appreciate the lives we have, and the possibilities and the things we may need to contribute to our community. Josiah, I love the way you made this connection. You referenced the moment where the cat is sort of soothing Piccola while she's crying, right? She's in great fear and intimidation by the hands of Junior. And the cat sort of comforts her and consoles her. And you kind of made that reference that it's the cat kind of does the same thing for Piccola that the cat does for Geraldine. And I think that's such an apt observation. It really is. Geraldine needs this cat. She is completely unhappy. Hannah, you talked about it too, how unhappy Geraldine is in this marriage. As a wife, as a mother, she doesn't really have an identity beyond that. And it seems that she desperately wants one. And she is so unhappy. And the cat is the only thing that consoles her, the only thing that brings her peace and joy and calm. And in that moment, Piccola feels that same thing when the cat rubs against her. So, Josiah, I thought that was a great observation. This book is, Jacob, you mentioned something that this book is talking about Black experiences, but a lot of the experiences we're understanding don't really see color in that way, that they are experiences of human beings. And I think that's an important part of this story that we must identify. Isaac, you mentioned that one of the biggest issues, you feel one of the biggest issues for the Black community is the jealousy of the privilege of whites. And I disagree in the sense that I don't think it's a jealousy. I think it's an envy and a bit of bitterness from the history and the way things that have sort of played out, right? You don't agree with segregation, and I think that's a wonderful thing, but segregation is very real and has existed for the duration of American history. We're not legally segregated in this country, but we are segregated in a lot of ways still. In most states, you can identify schools that have larger populations of one race than the other, that certain cities have a larger population of one race than they do of another. And some of those things are by design. And so it is more in depth than just jealousy, right? And maybe there is some jealousy there, but there is a lot of envy and a lot of bitterness. And I encourage you to explore the history of that relationship, especially at the turn of the ending of the Civil War, that had immense ramifications to the plight of people of color, and it continued. And so we enter into a place in this novel where we're starting to get a bit more personal, right? And so right now you should be reading about Pauline's story, right? And that's a very moving section of the novel. It's one of those pieces of the novel, and we're also reading about Mr. Henry touching Frida, right? And that, we're getting into really serious and disturbing content in the novel, things that may cause some alarm, right? But this is This is an expression of experience and reality. This is a story that Toni Morrison felt needed to be told. And I'm inclined to trust and believe that the story that she feels needs to be told needs to be read and needs to be understood. So I hope you'll continue to do that with me. I hope you'll continue to do that on your own. And we're going to talk about Pauline when we get back, and then we'll get into that next section. And then we're getting towards the end of the book. We're only about, by the time we're done with the section that you're reading now, we'll be less than 100 pages away from the end. So anyway, thank you for your time. Of course, I went over 10 minutes, and I apologize. I hope you stayed with me the whole time. I will see you on Tuesday. Have a great weekend, and happy Halloween.